Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi, and tonight, at the moment, I am joined by the man across the water, Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Evening, lads. How are you?
Renamed from his infamous Monty G. Burns when Steven Gerrard left a few weeks ago. And we're also joined by the master tactician himself, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, guys.
Hopefully Ralph Malf may join us. He is currently... can any of you guys think of the best description? A debacle or a siege? He's currently involved in something in darkest Derbyshire, involving an Amazon delivery van, a couple of police trucks, and a lot of peering round corners, judging by the photos Ralph keeps sending us. So we don't know.
We've deduced that he's actually on the run.
It may be one of the guys. I know that you get the kind of those programs, 48 hours on the run, you've got to stay away from the professionals to win a grand prize. You get impressed that's Ralph's life, to be brutally honest.
It does look like one of these character fits in Crime Watch UK, though, doesn't it? He's got that look about.
That's what happens when you're brought up in Dunoon, to be fair. Dunoon will do that to you, let alone living in Derbyshire, Stoke. Anyway, so hopefully Ralph can join us, but if you're tuning in for Ralph, apologies. And if you're also a big fan of Ralph's diary, I have to apologise for breaking the etims.net site today. So sadly, the one day Ralph was just a really, really good diary entitled The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which some of you may know what that means. Sadly, I have buggered up the site, so you may not be able to access it at the moment. Monty, while doing this chat, is also trying to get on to support and get it fixed. So we'll see how that pans out. But mea culpa, as Monty likes to say.
1972.
I said, we're trying to bring the site up until the 21st century. God only knows what will happen. But anyway, we're here now. We're here, so at least we get to chat if we don't get to publish. So, okay, let's see. Since the last time we chatted, the last podcast was a tribute to Bertie Auld, God bless him. And thanks to everyone who said it was a fitting tribute. Thank you very much. Before that, we'd actually had one, which I think it was the 11th of November. We had one when Steven Gerrard left, but football-wise, we've missed a bit of football, but thankfully we did have the kind of international break. So the last game, Hector, or the game immediately following the last podcast was, in fact, the St Johnstone semi-final. Mm-hmm. Can you remember much about it, worth talking about?
It was reminiscent of the league game. I think we beat them 2-0, wasn't it? And it was... They've got a style of playing, a system that, let's be honest, it's brutal.
Oh.
It is I'm all for teams to have different styles of play, right, to mix it up. You know, it makes it interesting, but this is brutal, isn't it? And I know they'll say, but they've got a fraction of your budget, which is a fact. And they won 2 trophies last season, which is a fantastic achievement, to be fair. But it's just a horrible... There's no intention of playing football. It's about killing the game, isn't it? It's about getting throw-ins, getting a foul, wasting 20 seconds, 30 seconds each time. It's pretty rubbish.
Sorry Hector, can I just pause this input for a second? Because just to give everyone an idea, we're currently on Skype chat, and there's Hector, Monty and myself, and I've just put us into together mode where it puts you into various different screens. And Hector, for some reason, was suddenly looking very, very small. And all I could think of was all the Giovanni Van Bronckhorst tweets over the weekend. So we'll go back to Giovanni Van Bandito. Sorry, Hector, for that.
I've noticed I just sat up my chair there.
I noticed you raised your chair up, so obviously you noticed.
I know. No, but it was true that they would get football stopped, wouldn't it? But anyway, we struggled through. We won. the usual when they try to make a situation out of apparently a handball, which nobody in the planet's seen at real time, not even Jota. Fully deserved to go through. I think what it does show you, though, is that with 3 cracking chances the first half, and Turnbull, I think, won the first 10 minutes. See, if you score early against these teams, it's a different game. I think that's where we've struggled a wee bit against St Johnstone twice, or we've won twice, Livingston twice in particular. They play kind of similar systems against us, and it's getting that early goal. It just changes the game. So, but anyway, we get through. That was an important thing, getting through to the final. And obviously with the Brucey bonus the next day, when whoever it was in charge of Rangers that day.
Well, I've entitled that agenda point as next day, as expected, it was a rout for the big side against the plucky managerless minnows. So as Hector says, Monty, that was a nice. After viewing James Forrest coming on to give us the winner, it was also nice to see Martin Boyle running riot the following day.
That was a lot of fun watching that, just as background. And it's part of there's a cutting edge to Hibs at the minute, which is actually the fact that they come out and play as opposed to St Johnstone sitting and parking a bus. It makes it for a completely different game, as Hector just touched upon. So if we can get ahead of people early, they have to come out. But that's a challenge, and I think that pragmatism as well that's crept into how we're playing at the minute is related to that we have to be patient. We have to find ways of picking the lock, but it's really, really difficult with these teams who seem hyper motivated to keep us out. And then you look at the Hibs game where Hibs will go toe to toe, and actually the final should be a great game. I think the last couple of games we've had against Hibs have been quite good. They've been enjoyable. They're not afraid to come and have a go, so it should make for a good game. But the St Johnstone game, just to Hector's point, was just dire. Just a team that set up, and it seems to be more as well. If you look at Livy and how Livy play, it's becoming a bit of a theme. It'll be interesting to see.
I'd even see Aberdeen yesterday.
Yeah,
played the exact same way yesterday. In fact, they probably wasted more time. There was more feigned injuries, more head knocks, more lying around than actually St Johnstone or Livingston had. Which was really surprising because Stephen Glass was never that type of player. Stephen Glass was more a skillful, creative player. And his early signs at Aberdeen were a passing, attacking team. But everything was off the table yesterday. They were appalling yesterday.
I've got the notes here. Aberdeen players, when we come in the Aberdeen game later on, but I've got Aberdeen players putting it about and going to ground. It was dreadful to watch. Really, really. The amount of booting. To be fair, it did give the game a bit of an edge in the stadium, Hector, didn't it? There was a bit of an edge because people were getting so riled up, having to watch like one guy and doing, then as soon as the ball went back into play, another guy went doing. Every Celtic, because it was just all Celtic, but every Celtic attack was stifled by somebody getting down round about the box.
And they've looked at St Johnstone and Livingston, and it's about ensuring there's no flow to a game, because our strength of all the teams in the league is really kick tempo to a game. And teams, if they do their homework, which they're clearly doing now, are saying, right, if we break up that tempo, what can we do? Fear an injury. Every 30 seconds, 60 seconds, somebody get down, or it's a throw in, take 25, 30 seconds, push it to the limit. And it's hard to play against unless you've got a really good referee, don't laugh, in Scotland, or unless you get an early goal. You get an early goal, it usually just changes the game, usually.
It does. Well, again, we'll come in Aberdeen second, but it is becoming a common theme. But again, we kind of saw that coming down the line as we started to think about to avoid the usual modern pattern, the low press and the high press, etc. But Jota's been talking about again. It's hard to find space. The 10 men behind the ball, the kind of anti-football hope for a set piece. I noticed Rangers yesterday have scored something like 12 goals or something for set pieces so far. So they're obviously kind of looking towards that. Maybe we should employ that Austin McPhee for Aston Villa, the set piece specialist, a set piece coach. You know what I mean? Because it's becoming a bigger and bigger factor in the game. But we're trying to play football, and other teams are just hoping for a good set piece opportunity. You know what I mean?
But what I would say, right, we ground it out against St Johnstone, right? Wasn't pretty, but we feel we deserve to win. Ground it out. You mentioned Jamesy, which is good. He's a big player for us, Forrest, and he's obviously had his issues, particularly the last 12 months. with injury, but it looks as if the manager's just been very careful with him, brought him back, bit at a time, got his start. And we'll talk about Leverkusen, no doubt, in a few minutes. Put him on the bench after Thursday made sense, and even when he came on, you can see the difference in his game. He's a far superior player to Abada. No criticism of Abada's 19, scored a few goals, but Forrest is clearly a different level. So that was good. So importantly, it was getting through against St Johnstone. James is scoring, but getting to the cup final. I think Monty had mentioned it in previous podcasts. Is just getting there. It's good for the manager, it's good for the team, good for the fans. And if we go there just before Christmas, and obviously could win that first cup, what a start that would be after the kind of the hard few weeks, first few weeks of the start of Angie's time in charge of Celtic.
Yeah, I think that's it, Neil, on the head. The ability to get a trophy in the bag, the first one that he's competing for, and we've got a real shot at it now. It's such a statement, and you can see the development of the team over the last number of months. So we know we're on a right path. It deserves a bit of a reward, but then you only get whatever you work hardest for, you'll get it, you know. And Hibs really wanted that other semi-final. You could see they had the bit between their teeth, and Boyle destroyed that shot, destroyed them. That said, they had opportunities. Like Hibs did their best to Hibs it as well. They offered up loads of chances, but they just seemed to be hungrier. They wanted it more. They really had a statement to make. So it'll be a tough final first, but to get a trophy in the cabinet, especially a combination of last year plus the difficult start he had, I think it would be phenomenal. You know, and really, really set us up. Get this run through to the end of January, and as we've said consistently, just be in touch at the turn of the year. You'd like to think that all this talk about, you know, pre-planning and having players identified isn't just smoke and mirrors, that we're going to really act on.
I don't think it is. I think the fact that Ange has been quite candid about it, you know, he won't directly name a player, but he's quite candidly said, you know, J-League, Japanese market, he knows it really well. He knows their season's finished now. Their players are pretty much available. So I think just listening to what the guy's saying, that he's made it clear he wants them in straight away, not at the end of the transfer window straight away. So I'd expect to see things moving there fairly quickly.
Aye.
Fingers crossed. So it's Hibs in the final, on the 19th of December. £40 a ticket, Hector. Did you break open the piggy bank to get the family tickets yet?
I know, it's a bit. I still can't get my head around why the cup finals, the League Cup finals. I got it last year, right? Because remember last year was the Scottish Cup final, and it was because of the COVID. It was always kind of November or March. The League Cup finals kind of jump between the two. Why have they made this one just prior to Christmas? It's a bit strange. I still don't know why, rhyme or reason for why they've done that. That mental, as are the prices just pre-Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. And because I was sure that was it. I think it was like £25 for the semi-final, and I thought, fair play, that's reasonable. I mean, you're kind of going, that's reasonable. But then suddenly it jumps up to £40 for the final.
Well, Desi, knowing the Celtic board as we do, it wouldn't surprise me if it was them that actually suggested it.
They probably asked for 50. I mean, I've been saying we can get away with roughly £55 a game for your season book. You know what I mean? That was quite strange. I don't know when about you, Hector, yesterday, but there was quite a few spaces in the main stand, so I don't know if maybe they'd heard that the prawns hadn't been delivered on time or whatever, but there's quite a few spaces when it was fairly chock-a-block.
We actually commented on that just as the game was starting, how busy it was. So yeah, it was really busy.
Yeah, especially getting that cold. So yeah, so that was good. So we get through the semi-final. Well done, Ange and the team. So we'll get the final to look forward to on the 19th of December. That'll take care of itself. Hopefully it'll be a happy Christmas. We did have some sad news, and I'm not talking about anything Bertie or old related. Sad news for Monty. We did have some sad news for Monty over the recent period, and that was that Ralph Ragnarok, as I like to call him, has signed for Man United. So the dream is over, Monty. The dream has gone, mate. Are you okay?
I think it just wouldn't have been as fun had we got him, although it would have been quite exceptional. But yes, I've completed mourning. Obviously, our project wasn't as big as the United project, and I think he'll actually, if they let him do what he's meant to do at United, give it 2 or 3 years and he'll be back on top and he'll stay there. But such is life. I'm quite comfortable in the madness of Ange and the Leverkusen game and all of that. So no,
Desi, you're missing an important thing. is that Man United is probably Monty's first team anyway, or second team,
Right,
isn't it?
typical Irish guy.
Like most of the guys over the water, here they come. Who's that? You know how they're all Liverpool and Man United fans over there, aren't they? Who've got a sweet spot for the lovely Celtic. I'm joking before you all go mental.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
To be fair, it looks like he's wearing a George Best jumper through here, as far as I can see. He's got the wedding present LP behind him, as you can see. That reminds me, if anybody I found the Brian McClare podcast, the latest ones, they get the lead singer from the wedding present, and he actually talks about the George Best LP having to pay £500 for the image rights for their LP, George Best LP. But that's a good wee listen. Brian McClare talking about the joys of going to statistician class and being taken to the pub to count the cars outside. So interesting. So it can be an interesting life for statisticians out there, Hector.
God bless every one of them. God bless them all.
Right. So that was Ralph's gone. Sadly, Ralph's gone. But so 4 days after St Johnstone, Hector, we were over in Germany for Leverkusen. We were over in Germany for Leverkusen. Chris Sutton was in Celtic Park because he wasn't allowed in Ibrox, so that was a nice wee welcome to Scotland touch. But I've just wrote here, the lows, the highs, the lows, same old Celtic ?
I would disagree.
I'm asking.
I know it's a results business, and we're always clear about that. And ultimately, we lost a game 3-2. But I would just compare it to when we played Leverkusen. Was it 6 weeks or so prior to that? And they gubbed us 4-0. And I've heard folks saying, I agree, Celtic have scored 2 or 3 goals, but Leverkusen could have scored 6 or 7 goals that night, right? So they gave us a bit of a doing. I was happier with what I've seen. Leverkusen still had more chances, and that's no surprise. They're a quality team. They're a shoe-in, but looks at for Champions League next year, top 4 in Germany. They've got some smashing players. They're building a team there. Yeah. But the fact that we lost that goal, early-ish goal, and they actually missed a sitter just before that, but we didn't panic. We kept doing what we're doing. We kept the ball moving. We gradually found our way into it. And then we got a penalty when Kyogo was held up brave to get in for that, and obviously the keeper took him out. But I thought what was great to see was we just kept going at it. We kept going at it. Second half, that double save with Joe Hart was just something else, wasn't it? The one in the goal line. And then there was about 2 or 3 minutes later, he won the ball. And people on the top of this enough. He launched the ball down the right wing to Forrest, who flicked it on the counter-attack. Then Jota with a fantastic finish. But that second goal, it was one of the best counter-attack goals you'll see.
He landed that ball on Jamesy Hutton's, or Jamesy Forrest's foot. Can't speak. I have a hangover, by the way. It was my birthday yesterday. I'm really, really rough. He landed that ball right on his foot. Like, as you say, just by plucking it from that. And it was one touch to create the opportunity. Now the Bethlehem Busquets nearly fluffed the lines with the last pass, but then Kyogo's awareness to get that over to...
Oh, that's harsh.
Just top drawer counter-attacking football, Hector.
Well, the Bethlehem Busquets sprinted 50 metres for holding mid to get forward for the pass for James. Yeah. God bless him. No, but you're right. But what was great was we just went for them. And I think we've discussed this within our chat and other things, is that it just, what it showed was one, was the improvement, and two, the subs that the manager made. And I've heard one or two folk criticise him, but I wouldn't criticise him, because the biggest game, in my opinion, was Aberdeen game yesterday. We were guaranteed European football. The league is the priority, and if it meant preserving Kyogo or a bit of Jota, and certainly Jamesy, who's just come back from injury, but then Beaton, of all people, we always have a laugh joke on here about Beaton, but actually Beaton going off with that head injury actually had such a big impact on us, because McCarthy came in, and McCarthy's not at the same level right now through lack of games like Beaton was. Remember, Beaton was centre half. We're going, and I kept saying, no, he'll do a job as number 6. He's not the future number 6. It took him about 3 or 4 games, and suddenly you could see the difference in his play. McCarthy's probably the same. He needs 3 or 4 games just to realise, don't take the extra touch on the ball. Don't take the extra, it feels like an eternity because the other players moved it that quick. Don't take an extra quarter of a second on the ball. Move it, just let the ball keep moving. And Beaton was guilty of that. But he got over that hurdle, what a difference. And I just feel that it showed the squad depth wasn't quite there. But remember, Ange's just done. Let's get January out the way. Let's get next summer out the way. And hopefully at that point, our bench will be as strong as some of the guys who they're going to replace. And I think if we get to that place, you'll see a difference in the results in Europe against good teams.
Yeah, he's also like said the last couple of days, he's hoping for Roger to come back. He's been a big loss. I mean, again, that's another surprising statement to make. If you'd have said that last year, Nick, in a year's time, you'll be saying Beaton and Roger were a big loss. You know what I mean?
Well, look at Ralston, Desi Ralston, Beaton.
I'll come to him now. Give me a second. I've got to have Mark down for a conversation point. But regards the squad and strengthening the bench, I mean, again, because that bench, a lot of people also forgot that on that bench was the Euro squad bench, which was nominated, say, 5 weeks ago, or whatever it was, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, at the start of the campaign. So it was all the Waynes who haven't even had a game. I mean, so when people are complaining about why they bring on Johnson and Abada, they were like the highest qualified guys actually on that bench. McCarthy had already came on. I mean, so they were the only ones left. Jota looked as though he could still run, but he's got 11 games between now and the winter break. And Kyogo had probably ran himself into the ground and also been in that collision with the keeper. So we don't know if he was maybe just shaken up enough to come out. No, that way.
James's first start. You know.
No, that kind of idea. So I think at the moment we're still a good 70-minute team. We've not got the squad and the strength. At the moment, we're working towards it to become a 90-minute team. Hopefully by the end of the season we'll have the squad, or the vast majority of our squad to be a 90-minute good team. But hopefully for now the 70 minutes is enough. Mm-hmm. Right, so I'll come back to Ralston, because I thought Ralston was to blame for 2 of the goals, right? But the good and the bad, the ugly, whatever, for one of a better phrase, it all balances out. You lose it, and again, people who are slagging the subs, but you lose as a team, you win as a team. It is a cliche, but it's true. And the problems were at the back. They weren't at the forward line for Johnson and Abada, apart from missing a chance. But I've got here, right, daft goals to concede, the same old Celtic. And Hector, me and you kind of cross-replied on this on Twitter. We shared the Twitter account.
Part of the fun.
Cross-replied on this. Where people, Ralston loses his man at that first goal. Totally loses the big guy at the corner. Welsh is totally doing his job, marking a guy. And literally 99% of Twitter suddenly erupts into a Welsh should never play for Celtic again. What game is it that 100 Celtic fans can watch and 50 can see one thing and 50 can see another, and another 50 can see something totally different again?
I think, Desi, though, I think a lot of that is just it's in the moment. You know, in the moment when you lose a goal, and you know, all rhyme or reason goes out the window for a lot of people. They're just so annoyed, and we get worked up. But you know, for that, for fuck's sake moment, and they tweet something, rather than if you'd watched it a day later or something, and they get a chance to assess it, they would see it differently. So I kind of get, it doesn't mean I don't get frustrated with some of the comments at times, but you're right, nothing to do with Welsh. And actually, Ralston, if you watch it, they were cute. They blocked him. They blocked Ralston run, and that's just professionalism, right?
Exactly.
Did Scott Brown no do that when they drew 2 Ibrox in a league game? Did he no do something similar against, was it Goldson or somebody? It's just being cute, and they were cute. That big fella, he got the run in Ralston, and Ralston got blocked, and that's just football, right, at that level.
Yeah, right. But concentrating on the positive, I know we get beat, blah blah blah. As Hector, you mentioned, we're guaranteed the conference, so that's fine, and we're in the conference. But Monty, let's concentrate on the good, and not even just good, the spectacularly good. That penalty. How long did it take your heart to come back from the top of your throat to go back into the middle of your chest watching that penalty?
Do you know what it was? They have the audacity. I was watching it in real time. You have that kind of sense of disbelief going, he didn't just do that, as the ball's still making its way. And it's on such an arc. You're thinking, he's fucked it. He's going to put it over the bar. You know, that split second of real time? Absolutely ice cold. And I don't want to turn the positive into the negative, but it then got me thinking about the penalty in the last minute that Jack Marcus took against Livy. Going, this guy is fucking deadly from the spot. And you know, that's me probably jinxing him now. But fucking deadly. That's our penalty taker. You don't need it.
To be honest, what about you, Hector? I was a bit disappointed, to be brutally honest. Why did he know how to off the bar and then heat it in when the goalie was on the deck?
But
Does that
disallowed
not be a
then.
better looking
No,
penalty?
but disallowed then, wouldn't it? See, he
No,
knows the
I don't
rules.
know,
He knows.
they touch
No, somebody else is going to touch it after you shoot. Do you know what? It was one of those moments, wasn't it, where, and remember, we're getting beat at the time. It's not as if we're 4-0 up and it's the last minute, but we're getting beat. And it was just the underspin. Otherwise, it was as close as you could get to.
Couldn't have got it any closer.
But it was showed a lot of balls to do that.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, he's now took 3 penalties. One away to Berties, one I think was at home to St Johnstone in the game against Leverkusen. And the 3 penalties, he's put one in the far left corner, one in the far right corner, and one down the middle just under the bar, out of 3.
Yeah.
My God.
So we're basically saying Juranovic does not have a clue what he's doing with that ball. I mean, that's what our conclusion is. Surely you should just pick a spot and stick with it.
I can't wait to see him at right back, honestly. I can't wait to see him at right back.
And equally, an equivalent level of quality on the left-hand side. And now you've got Ralston and Taylor, 2 Scotland international squad players, as backups to your fullbacks. So you can see the logic. And I know we'll talk a little bit more, I think, about the sort of general picture, but one of the stats guys, not the one that you fell out with, Ollie is. I
love every one of the wankers.
Talk about what Celtic. It's actually Celtic's challenge is fixing the midfield, which you wouldn't perceive because of the way we're playing. And it was based around the type of game that Postecoglou wants to play. It requires a particular type of player. And you can see that he's doing the best of what he has by bringing in. And you look at Ralston and how Ralston's come on. And to your earlier point, the guy just got the run on him twice. And then, it is what it is. That guy was a decent big player, that big midfielder, big fucking angry looking thing. But when we can add that level of quality in the midfield, then we're more agile. Then our press becomes better. And apparently that's where we're feeling at the minute. It's another one of these, how much stock you put in it. I think it was called packed or something like that. You can pack a midfielder, which basically means you can take him out of the game with a simple pass. Some shit like that. But apparently Turnbull's stats are off the chart. The amount of times he just gets beat with a simple ball, he's gone. And similarly, it wasn't McGregor, but you've got a scenario basically that Bitton and Turnbull in that game on Thursday night were being packed, if that's the correct remembrance of the phrase, at a level that typically shouldn't happen to be able to compete at that level. So a more agile player, a more nimble, more technical player, and someone who actually becomes more tactically aware. But to your earlier point as well, I'm just only 6 months into the job. It'll take time for these guys to understand. So
how many times? Here's for these geeks, right? And you know me, I would have laughed in a joke. I like a lot of the data analytics, always have done, as a balance. But to turn it in its head a bit, how often in particular in the second half did Beaton intercept?
He was brilliant.
Ball for one of their players on the edge of our box that probably denied a goal scoring opportunity. And that's for me, you've got to present everything. Yes, not just something that suits your argument.
Aye.
Present the positives, the negatives, so that people can then say, right, do you know what? I've weighed everything up. I get it. No one's for 1 second suggesting your Beaton's the answer for Celtic to become a regular Champions League qualifying group stage team and whatever, and aspirations beyond that. Nobody suggests that. But there's unrealistic expectations. And there's also there's cherry picking information that suits your argument, and that bugs me. I just think just put it all out there for people, and then people can make their own mind up. Rather than have an agenda. Which I'm not saying everyone has. I know there's some good guys out there that do the analytics, and there's a lot of very good guys, and it's great reading. There's one or two you think, fucking wind your neck in. Will you?
Aye. No, I agree, Joe.
So I mean, I've not got a view on analytics myself, so I'll move on. So we're into the conference. So are we? What camp are we in? Are we half full? Is the glass half full? Is the glass half empty? What do we think?
I would say half enough
to get into the conference.
I would say half full because if we'd finished second in Europa League, well, it'd be great to have got even a point and beat Betis. It would be a great night if we could do all that. You're going to get a team that's third in the Champions League. That's who your playoff game's against, right? Whereas you get in the conference, I think you play against a team that was third in the conference group. Is that right? So you've actually got a chance, I think, of getting to the last 16. And there's a couple of really strong teams, as we know. You've got Spurs. Spurs they'll come in. Roma, I know they'll have their ups and downs, but they're strong with Mourinho as well. But there's other teams there you think, do you know what? If we could get a decent draw, we could maybe get through another couple of rounds at least. And I think for Ange and the team's development, that's a positive, because it comes in February time, doesn't it? We get a good winter break.
I think the main negative is the fact is I think Europa League's not until March. So I think the conference comes first, so you have to be basically back on your toes in March, so maybe your schedule gets a wee bit more crowded. But you're not going to get a more crowded schedule than 11 games between, like last weekend and the winter break. You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
It's the same every year, is it? No, every December with the same ridiculous schedule every year.
So that was Europe. So that was that. So that's left us with a dead rubber against Real Betis. And I'm banking for some reason that we're going to have another Juventus game, because everybody always talks about that great night against Juventus. And I was there and it was great to see, but it never meant anything to Juventus. They were already through. They didn't really care. So I think we're going to have a great night at Celtic Park against Betis. It'll be one of the toe-to-toe games, but they'll be playing maybe 8 of their first 11 and resting a few of their start, and then it'll end up one of the great glamour nights. But ultimately, it didn't really mean anything.
But that Juventus game you referenced there, though, Desi, and it was. But remember, there wasn't their B team. Del Piero and Trezeguet and all these guys played that night.
But they were already through that kind of. I mean, like, ultimately the big thing, it wasn't like a big decider. It was already decided. You know what I mean? No, like your mind, no, like when Nakamura against Man United and that was like kind of like a decider. That idea. Juventus game is heralded as a great European night, but ultimately it didn't really matter that much.
Did we not go to Turin for the first game, Desi?
Aye.
Is that how that cheating bastard Amoruso in the last minute?
There were 6 people sleeping on the flare in the bedroom. That was the famous. That was Celtic's first Champions League game, because it was meant. I think it was meant to be Rosenborg, and then that got cancelled because of 9/11. Remember?
That's right. Yep.
And then we went to Turin for Juventus, and then
my abiding memory of that game was the bottles of piss that the friendly locals lobbed at us into the.
Remember the 20-minute video?
I dropped mine.
Remember they 14% proof. They had a 20-minute video at the start of the game. Remember the ultras?
That's
and
right.
They all held up like silver placards for 20 minutes. Or the Juventus ultras as a mark of respect for 9/11. Then somebody blew a whistle and they immediately started attacking us. And that was like, well, surely they see the irony in that kind of saluting the dead and then attacking us, throwing everything at us with that barrier, chairs, a lot.
We went via Genoa Airport.
Oh.
Monty, that was Desi's fault. And
I had the credit card. That was the only person that could actually book for Eddie and his extended family.
And we're on the flight from Stansted. And I go over French airspace, didn't it? I had to turn back, and my nephew, one of my nephews, but he was a little bit, let's say, scared, because it's not a big event that happens very often. You're in the air and you've got to turn back, and to help his fear, he skinned open a joint in the toilet in the aeroplane. God bless him. Do it in style.
Did you remember the man saying off the plane? He managed to talk his way off the plane, claiming he thought he had angina and maybe a blood clot. So he managed to get down the steps. We looked out the window and he was lighting a fag. We get diverted.
We go to Genoa Airport. I remember still this day walking as we get through, and we arrive and get your bag, and we're walking through, and the cops are there and they've got the guard dogs, and I still remember him saying, "Going to get me to the inside." What is it? Because he had a big lump of dope in his pocket. Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't know how we get through. We get away from them. We get in okay.
Oh, man, yeah, straight on our coach, and then a police escort across Italy. Remember? Police escort on the way to the Grun. We're looking forward to this Salubrious day out in Italy, and all we got was to see a coach right into the Grun, and then we came out, and it was a drama. Remember, they shut all the restaurants and all the pubs? And then eventually we had to find a hotel bar to drink in.
And we found out what happened that night was the previous year, Juventus had played Man United, and it might have been the quarter-finals or something of the Champions League. There was a big riot in Turin. The Juve fans, Man United fans, there was bars and that tore up. So the local cops now thought, a team from Britain, we're all the same, and they did, and it was actually pretty shit.
And then the next day again home, that's when we were hobnobbing it in the airport, standing next to Dermot Desmond and George Galloway. I remember
you got wee George's autograph, didn't you, Desi?
Oh no, George got mine. I remember they had these snakeskin boots on, and you're like, really? That's who our board singing about me. That's who George Galloway was an alright guy.
Whatever happened to that man?
Who, Dermot Desmond or George Galloway? God, that's what I'm saying.
That with George.
Oh, God only knows. God only knows. But we'll come on to politicians in a minute. Actually, that's interesting to say that, because we'll come on to politicians. So that brings us up to post Europe. We came back. So the Friday was Bertie Hall's funeral. God bless him. And a nice send off for Bertie on the Friday. And then the Sunday we had the game against Aberdeen yesterday. So sadly that started off with the kind of news of the Foodbank collection. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but I think it's the 10th year we've been doing Foodbank collections around about Christmas time at the ground, and for some unknown reason, it's still to be explained, but there's been a big kickback. Two Polish came wandering along asking why is our transit vans parked up at the Celtic Way, start accusing the guys involved of being mouthy and walking aggressively. Try that in the morning when you're out with the dogs. Walking aggressively towards them when getting questioned of what's the problem here. The Polish then left, then apparently came back with two traffic wardens. I don't know where you find. Hector, you might know, where do you find traffic wardens round about the Emirates these days, the East End? But then the traffic wardens issued £450 fines for the vans, and the Polish were apparently claiming it was Celtic who'd informed them of an issue. Celtic then immediately denied it, and then all this kicked off last night about how could this possibly happen? We had that John Mason, dick of an MP or MSP, total embarrassment, regardless of which party or non-party you support, who actually turned around and says, could have not collected somewhere else? And then at least we had David McDonald, the councillor for Pollock, saying, give me the details, I'll get this sorted, because it's the council that issue parking fines, it's not the police. The traffic wardens work for the council. That's a big money spinner these days for all councils in Britain. So he's looking to get them cost, but apparently the money had already been raised, but it's an absolute disgrace. If you're not aware of it, anyone that's listening, have a look at the story, because it's absolutely terrible. So people, of course, Hector, were making comparisons. If you want to get into George Square and smash up the place, feel free. The police will stand and give you a boundary to make sure you don't get disturbed. But if you want to collect food and money for the homeless and the hungry, then we'll come along and try and take £200 off you. It's quite surreal.
See, you're talking there, Daisy, right? And I was at the game yesterday, and I seen the various collection points, and me and my two boys were there, and I think it's close to a lot of our hearts. This has been personally for a number of years with the Glasgow North East Food Bank. I used to kind of help a bit, but listen to everything you said there, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle, right? You're through your own head, through what you know, through knowing of some of the people involved from different angles. You start to piece your own story in your own head, right? Now, this is just my opinion, thinking out loud, but clearly there's a big issue. There has been for a long time with those running the club, and I mean those on the board, and the Green Brigade. That's a fact. Everybody knows that, right? They've at times just turned a blind eye and let the liaison guy, who's a top guy, John Paul Taylor and others, work with the Green Brigade. I'm pretty sure that's what happens most of the time, right? But there's also the big elephant in the room, is the new head of security role that's coming up.
Mr Higgins.
And it's the assistant chief constable, isn't it, Higgins, who was at the forefront of the offensive behaviour football bill that was out there, that was obviously kicked out not that long ago. So there's talk of him becoming the head of security at Celtic. He's also responsible for many people's lives being fucked up considerably by his actions and his orders that he's given. Now, this is where my wee brain's at. The Celtic Board and Higgins are tight. Celtic Board aren't the biggest fans of Green Brigade, as we've known from their actions over years. And Higgins certainly isn't the biggest friend of the Green Brigade, far from it. Now, try to put a wee bit of two and two together. Is there any possible chance that Higgins or so, or one of his colleagues or one of his friends, gave the nod to these people? right, to go and sort them out or to do something like that, because that's the only thing that I can possibly think of what would be behind that, because they've been doing this for years and years and years, and there's never been this situation before. But then all of a sudden they're protesting, we don't want Higgins, get Higgins out, blah blah blah, and just out the blue 2 cops appear. It just doesn't seem right.
Interesting you say that, because you could add something to that, Monty. You may want to come in here. You could add something to that as if Celtic Board and Higgins are so tight. When Celtic were informed of this, I mean, when Celtic were informed, the police are accusing you of wanting us moved. Surely Celtic then could have pinged Higgins to say, you want to sort this out. These guys, your guys are causing trouble here. I mean, so there was a positive aspect that could have been utilised there if Celtic and Higgins were. I'm just saying they could have used it, but obviously they didn't.
That's a supposition, right? But you're trying to read between the lines a wee bit here. And it just seems hell of unusual what's happened, right?
I appreciate the sentiment of what you said, Hector, and similarly Desi, that concept, but I look at it slightly differently. This is a recruitment process for a senior job, and a candidate, a leading candidate in the field, his name was leaked to the press. This isn't, I don't see it now. This is symptomatic also of a board not on a club, not all being in the one direction. Somebody knew this guy, somebody within the club. Like, this name didn't leak out by accident and then be verified. You can't run a story like that without verifying it. But the problem for Celtic and for Higgins now is an actual, think about this, a hiring process has now been compromised by the press. 60,000 people in a stadium have said, he's not getting the job. There's banners to every fucking supporters unit, club, website, fan base, fan media. Everybody's unilaterally said, he's not getting the job. The problem for Celtic is, if he's the best candidate, how can you not give him the job? You can't discriminate against someone in a hiring process. So I think what's happened here is someone's actually read the tea leaves and went, we can't fucking hire this guy. And someone has broke rank and said, here, I know how we'll nobble that. And you're right, Desi, you could be seeing a wee bit of 2 fingers back, fuck you, we're the institution, we're the permanent government, as the man would call it in Scotland, we're the police force, we run this show. But I think Celtic have a major problem, as does this guy Higgins. How do you unwind from that? Was he offered the job? Is he waiting on his contract? Has he been verbally told he's got the job? So there's a much murkier thing going on at corporate level here, I think. But right.
Never say that.
Disagree that guy being brought in was a fuck you, go and sort them out. I wouldn't disagree that someone would think that way at board and senior management level. But it's not a bad thing that Nicholson is a legally minded interim CEO, because it's up to him to unravel this one. So something murky there.
So, but there's a question for you.
Personally, wouldn't have him fucking near the place, whether he's the best Celtic fan ever born, given what he done. Don't matter.
There's a question for you, Monty, then, right? Would the Celtic Board then be compromised to be seen no to hire him, given the fact that we're so far down? So now they suddenly look weak. So they suddenly saying, well, they can't get into the Green Brigade. You know what I mean? So they're between a rock and a hard place all of a sudden.
It's a much bigger corporate problem. If you've offered a guy a job, how do you rescind an offer? You can rescind an offer because you've decided to do something different. But the fact that this is out in the public domain, for what, like, if he's been offered the job, like, no one knows if he's been offered the job. But if he has been offered it, how do you can't rescind that? So either way, Higgins wins here. He's either getting a fucking huge, if he's been offered the job, that is, he'll get a huge payout from a tribunal for, discriminatory practice. Celtic PLC can't operate discriminatory practice. So the only way you can back out of this is to say, right, fuck it, we're not hiring a head of security. And have legitimate reasons that you can stand up and say, do you know that job? Yeah, nah, we're not going to do it. But actually, we'd like to offer you this other one over here, which is making secure tea in the evenings at 6 o'clock. Nah, I don't want that one. Sorry, it didn't work out. There's a very, very difficult way to unravel this now. So the key is he was offered the job. If he has been offered the job, the club are fucked, no matter what way they turn. They have an entire fan base lined up against the board if they go ahead and proceed, because they have to.
And that's the bit I was going to pick up on. And Desi, you made the point about the Green Brigade, and initially it was, but as we know through the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, it's now snowballed. So it's went from the Green Brigade and the other ultra group, the boys, who are the opposite end of Celtic Park. They sit, and now it's all the various supporters buses. There's hundreds of them covering the length and breadth of Scotland, Ireland, and other places. You've got other CSCs overseas. You've got websites like our own and many others out there who are all now saying, no, we don't want this guy anywhere near Celtic Park. Yeah. So it's went from just one group to now snowballing into, you can't see the entire support. No one ever represents that. Yeah, but to get such a vocal support.
Peter Rafferty.
But you know what I mean. But even to grow that big now, it's grew the sort of momentum that the board must dread. And I know most of the time they don't give a fuck. They've shown that with their actions in many occasions. And do you know what? Right now, they might still not give a fuck and say,
just do it anyway.
Care. Yeah. Come the first week in January, whatever, he's going to be in charge of security.
Hold on, Monty. Monty, you're a man who loves to quote Lemmy. So what is it now then? Don't back down, double down. That just made me suddenly think of a question there, Hector. I was laughing about Peter Rafferty, who we used to see on the front of Evening Times as supporter spokesman. Is there such a thing as the Celtic Supporters Association anymore? Does that still exist?
It does exist, aye. It does. They're very quiet.
I never hear it. It suddenly struck me that I hadn't heard that phrase in a long time. So anyway, and Monty, as you say, Hector, as you say, it's connecting everybody nearly. I was one of many folk in the main stand, etc. We had a stand up if you hate Higgins yesterday, and that will catch on. A lot of people couldn't really. I mean, we're of a good age in the main stand, so a lot of them couldn't make out what the Green Brigade were singing.
They thought it was Alex Higgins, didn't they? Somebody's going
I think they said stand up if you want an omelette. I think that's what a lot of us thought it was. Kedgeree, before it was free Kedgeree in the main stand. Yeah. But so that will start catching on. And again, but as Monty said, that will be real interesting now because they really are stuck between quite a corporate dilemma.
The other side of it too, in corporate world, and this is a political appointment. I mean, when the leaky sort of pointers were coming out, going, there's much more to it. It's not just match day stewards. It's liaison with the government, liaison with security agencies all throughout Europe and blah, blah, blah. So it's a political appointment. As with all things politics, events, dear boy, events. If the club was smart from a PR perspective, the club should be now walking through this because for the first time since Rodgers, you have realistically, by and large, an entirely unified support. Why the fuck would you waste that? So you can get Machiavellian about it. Let them all sit over there and we're going to do our own thing. Fuck them. Which serves a very, very similar purpose to what we talked about in our recent mini podcast around Get Rid of the Board. So you can turn the entire people against you really, really quickly. Or you can get them all on side by saying, you know what? We've reviewed this. But the problem is corporate now. Even if they've reviewed it and thought, fuck, we can't give him the job. If he's been offered the job, they've got a real problem. So, fun and game.
As I've said many times, we'll move on for Higgins. Best of luck with the Green Brigade and everyone else's campaigning, so it doesn't end up there. But I'll just conclude with the fact that I've said for a long time, if Higgins gets appointed at Celtic, it's nothing to do with a Celtic security role. It's purely to do with his contact book for Dermot Desmond's security business. The exact same as John Reid's when he was a Home Office minister, and suddenly Dermot Desmond has every scanner in every British airport. I mean, it's that easy. And that wasn't me saying that. That's Private Eye magazine who revealed that, and it was along the same lines. I mean, so if Dermot wants to appoint Higgins, he'll appoint Higgins. Let's be honest. But we'll move on for Higgins because let's concentrate on the actual game. And Hector, you were at the game yesterday. It was a lovely fitting fan's farewell to Bertie Auld yesterday. I was teared up. I thought it was really so emotional. It was a beautiful, well done to the club. For once, I know it's not something we say a lot here, but they did a really beautiful send off to him. From a fan's send off, it was a beautiful thing to see.
It was, as you say, it was quite emotional. It was very emotional. And about 10 to 3, wasn't it, when they asked fans to try and get in a little bit earlier, and they were there and they had the tribute up on the screens, the big number 10 over the centre circle, which was Bertie's obviously number, in his honour, and then you'd Callum McGregor and Scott Brown come on with some flowers and that, some as a tribute just before kick-off, and then with the minute's applause. And you're right, and sorry, You'll Never Walk Alone, which You'll Never Walk Alone was really emotional. It always is emotional. But
And the Celtic song, that was lovely.
Aye, and when it's Bertie and these guys, and you know, we've done numerous podcasts now, we spoke about our own parents and everything else, but when a guy of that era goes, that legendary status goes, it's a connection with you and your family going back through the time. We all loved him because his one-liners, his quips, and as well as being a hell of a talented player and a lesbian line, my God, ticked every box. But part of it is your own memories and asking your own dad probably at the time about Bertie Auld, and when you see guys like that one by one, unfortunately through just the nature of time, isn't it, start to pass away, it leaves a big void, and it's an emotional void, and God knows how many memories go through your own head when You Never Walk Alone's getting played in the Celtic song, and I was choking up. Me and probably half or most of the stadium, you know, choking up.
It was not even but like the kind of 67th minute in the heat of Lisbon. That had a more kind of poignant feeling about it, rather than just the standard 67 minutes. The phone lights going. I mean, it was like you could tell everybody was right behind it. But it was also a nice tribute to Bertie, Monty. But it was also a nice wee touch where Celtic fans got to salute Scott Brown. I know he went off injured. It was a shame he got off injured. No one wants to see that. But it was actually nice for us to stand up and give him a round of applause as Celtic fans. We never really got to say that goodbye due to COVID. And the way things.
I never got to watch the game yesterday. I was just
timer. You could have made the second half, to quote Jimmy Sanderson.
No, I was out drinking far too much alcohol, which was a bad thing. I was following the updates on Twitter, as you do, and you know the usual kind of you know the one each at half time, and you know they've got a dodgy penalty because they didn't need to give a dodgy penalty earlier and all that. I think Twitter didn't really capture the emotion of yesterday, and you know just how poignant it was. For some reason, or maybe I just missed it. I didn't see it, but I think Hector. I've sparked on a train of thought based on something Hector said. That notion of our ability to, you know, you'd ask your dad, or you'd ask people who are maybe a bit older, you know, what was he like as a player? And we got the opportunity at least to say, you know, a bit of or give appreciation for Brown. And ironically, when he went down injured and had to come off. I think similarly, while nowhere probably near the level of achievements, although it's arguable outside of Lisbon, you know, Brown's trophy haul is immense, fucking immense. And he will be the sort of player that I think, because of the character as well, you know, people will talk about him in many years too. So it was nice to give him a bit of a send-off. I actually would have loved to have been there. Yeah, yesterday I haven't been over in so long. I got to get myself over to a game this side of Christmas. But yeah, it was nice to see him off. The pictures actually of himself and McGregor walking out onto the centre circle were quite poignant as well. So yeah, it was a good thing to at least say some sort of cheerio to him, Desi. But I think we'll be talking about him for years. I have a funny feeling he's going to come back to Celtic in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, that was kind of touched upon and all last week. One of the reasons that may not have been conveyed too well on Twitter was, I don't know what the TV coverage was like. Hector and I were there, but the Celtic Wi-Fi is absolutely abysmal. God knows, in this day and age, really.
Embarrassing.
I mean, you're not trying to outdo the club. You're trying to share these things with people, with Celtic fans around the world. You're trying to show them what the perspective of somebody from in the stand, and that view that a camera might not catch. Don't they, like the European Cup, this sitting outside the players' tunnel yesterday? Yeah. No, these wee things you're trying to send them. Like I literally got home 2 hours after taking a photo. Do you wish to still send this photo because it's been sitting spinning because the Wi-Fi is abysmal? You try every possible thing, and I don't know why you still can't get a bet at Celtic Park because all the Ladbrokes kiosks have been removed. They're new, what is it, Betway or whoever. Who are we sponsored by again? Who's our betting brigade? Daft Bet maybe. I know, but they've been rebranded, but they're not reopened. I'm assuming that's due to COVID. But we used to think the Wi-Fi was shit because it didn't want you to go onto betting sites, bar theirs. Notice it, but it's just abysmal, and it's just a shame you can't share moments like yesterday with the wider world of Celtic audience.
See Desi's point there. That's exactly how I see it. The Wi-Fi was decent up to about pre-COVID times, maybe going back a couple of years now, right? But if we came back, it's been absolutely appalling. And we're very much aware that on the site, as much that on the Twitter account we have, there's the best part of 18,000 followers there. And we know from people talking to us over the years, there's folk for every corner of the planet who obviously live in America, Australia, whatever. So when you're sending stuff for the ground, Desi's get one for one angle and for the other.
Yep.
I'm acutely aware, as is Desi, that there's people who love to see these things, who can't get to Celtic Park. Even people that live in Scotland who can't afford a season ticket or can't go to it. And when you send out, you're actually sending out for others to appreciate in the moment. Like an example would have been You Never Walk Alone. I recorded that yesterday. I've not uploaded it yet. But now we've just had this conversation, I'm going to do it. Because there's people who wouldn't have got that in the stadium when you see that emotion going round. Yep. And I used to do the half-time when Scott Brown would come out. He was a captain, but at half-time, he'd come out, first out tunnel, and he'd do his diagonal run. And he'd jump up and he'd an invisible ball. And I had a wee bit laugh at it. I'm thinking, people love these things, right? Yes. Or apparently, and send the footage a wee bit after it. And the club, I think, are just so miserable at times. And it's got to be deliberate. The Wi-Fi in this day and age, you can't even get 4G. You can't get anything.
I have a sneaking suspicion.
Sorry. Even if he showed you an advert, you'd say, okay, I'll accept. Like YouTube, I'll accept a 30-second advert as long as you then let me onto this Wi-Fi. No, that way, I'm willing to pay that price. Sorry, Monty, on you go.
But I suspect that it is deliberate. If you look at there was a new media, a new Sky, was it Sky deal start of this season, or was it the start of last season? Start of the COVID season, wasn't it the Sky deal?
For the league?
For the league, aye.
Yeah, 18 million or whatever, yeah.
Aye. I suspect it's directly linked to that. I suspect that Sky's proprietary protection of its product requires that, it's the first place you get to see it on Sky.
But the game wasn't on Sky.
But no, it doesn't matter. What they don't want is anybody being able to broadcast if they have the rights for that game or that location. So
but really interesting.
Coincidence.
It'd be really interesting, right? Just your point. It'd be really interesting if the other SPL clubs, if supporters with season tickets at Ibrox or Pittodrie, if they're having the same issues. I think that then you're 100%
that'll
right.
validate that theory.
See if it turns out it's just us. It wouldn't surprise me.
Then that's
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because remember, across the city there was a company who were kind of a global specialist in stadium Wi-Fi. And Huawei, big Chinese multinational, Huawei's technology by and large lights up most stadiums throughout the world. And this crowd went in, but then they stopped paying the bills for the first version of Rangers. So I don't think they went back in again. But they cut a deal with someone else who was kind of a bargain bucket using old equipment, which upgraded them for a while. But the last I'd even spotted anything floating around it was the same thing, Wi-Fi shit. So, yeah, it would be nice to validate the theory. But it could well be we're just asleep.
In this day and age, I mean, it's just mental. You can get Wi-Fi on a corporate bus, but you can't get Wi-Fi at a 60,000 seater stadium. Again, a good question would be, to be honest, I think the people in hospitality sitting 50 yards behind me in the main stand, I think they have got problems with their Wi-Fi. I'm pretty sure they'll have their own Wi-Fi set up that works just fine. I mean, that kind of it's just.
I would turn that on its head, Desi. I was involved in a deal over here in Ireland for the National Stadium in Dublin, and the chief executive of that organisation, we went and presented to him a completely modern, based on American football grounds, by the way. And we've been talking about things like the Sky Cam you'd see at that American football that's now come its way into the Premier League. And we talked about high performance Wi-Fi, and for concerts he thought, fuck, that's brilliant. But when it came to game day and match day, he didn't want it. He says, I don't want people in here sitting staring at their phones all day. I want them in here to watch the game. I want them to go to the concourse. I want them to mingle. I want them to buy beer and food. So he had a catch-22. He needed really, really good Wi-Fi for the likes of concerts and, for people, for tracking kids, for example, dropped off at a concert. Where do you meet your mum and dad? That was the clincher for the deal. But when it came to actual match day, they had a real problem converting what the match day Wi-Fi experience should be. And we were offering them all sorts of great stuff. Like if you were in the North Stand and your buddy who you didn't know was at the game was only 2 or 3 blocks down, and you could get a proximity alert that would tell you, here, Hector's down there, why don't you just meet up at the bar and there's 10% off, all that great stuff that you get at American football. But I think, yeah, we could hypothesize on this. It could well be we're just asleep at the wheel. I have a funny feeling Sky, though, are doing something around preventing people recording and all that shit.
Well, I know someone who's quite high up in the UK communication. I'm not going to say too much here, but he's basically said this in the next 18 months to 2 years, you could see quite a lot of groups merging along your Sky, your Virgins, your BT lines regards coverage. So there could be quite a big development coming there. I honestly think the whole Celtic Live thing, I don't even connect it anymore because this used to bugger up your phone, the spinning wheel of death. But let's move on from that annoyance to the actual game itself. So Hector, you kind of touched on that wee bit there. McCarthy in for Beaton. Taking me where we got with speed, but I thought you actually had quite a decent game. No spectacular, but decent. That's all we ask for, really.
Aye.
Is it not?
And all I would say is it's noticeable that he doesn't move the ball as quickly, right? There's sometimes you want to slow it down. I get that. And I was thinking about this a wee bit. Look at McCarthy's history in terms of club football, his career. It's been Hamilton, really, a bit of time at Everton, but Crystal Palace. He's been, a lot of his career's been in teams who are more defensive minded, if that makes sense. More to spoil a game, more to slow it down. Coming to Ange Ball is the complete opposite of probably anything he's done in his career. So, of all the players we've got, he's one that will take a bit of time. But what I'm glad that he's took his time with him. His career history, injury records, not the greatest, and he just needs games. So I think that 90 minutes he has to be so good for him. And I'd like to see him now push on. But he's just got to move the ball just that wee fraction quicker once we're going forward. An example was the second goal. People go, It was actually his pass when he was really high up the edge of the box. When he was on his right and he fainted, cut to his left, lovely through ball to Abada that led to the winning goal. So he's got the technical ability. It's just, I think, it's just getting up to match speed is the thing that he needs. That's all he needs. A lot of decent things. I thought the first 25-30 were really good. Soft penalty, and real time it looked a penalty real time, right? And you see the replays and you go, never a penalty. But I remember the guy next to me, he was shouting as the ball was over there and the guy Bates was going for the Aberdeen guy, shouting, "Don't put your leg out!" He actually shouted dead loud.
I think I heard him.
Abada put his leg out and the guy threw himself over it, right? And these things happen. That knocked us a wee bit. But I actually thought second half we kept a nice tempo to the game and amongst their spoiling tactics. And we got a bit of luck at the goal, but we fully deserved our luck. And we ran out, I think, 2-1, it wasn't a fair reflection. It was interesting. Stephen Glass said he was proud of his team. And I watched the sports scene highlights last night, and a guy, Richard Foster, who played with Aberdeen for a number of years, and one season at Ibrox.
He was player of the season at Ibrox and got let go.
Aye.
These were 2 years. End up with public whistle.
He was also pro-independent, so apparently didn't like him. And he was saying that he thought Stephen Glass was talking nonsense. Shouldn't be proud of that at all. He goes, they were second to everything. Their tactics weren't very good. Celtic by far the better team, and that was right. But we let them in the game. Abada just lack of experience, just wasn't cute enough. Just let them get down. Let them get down, and that's all we had to do. So good 3 points in the end. Well done. Yeah,
just to bring it back a wee bit, Monty. Do you remember much from seeing McCarthy for Ireland? Did you see much so you can bring to Celtic? I know it might sound a silly basic question, but in that role, this holding role and play a wee bit deeper playmaker, like the kind of 30-yard passes.
He's always tidy in possession with Ireland. He doesn't. He's just a good, solid, 6.5, 7.5 out of 10. But then Ireland play up until Stephen Kenny took over the national team. Very much a style of football that would just similar to his clubs. Wigan, Hamilton, Crystal Palace, on the back foot, doing a lot of, coverage work, a lot of sort of tactical awareness and spatial awareness work, as opposed to being on the ball and making it happen. So there's a very, very different game for him at Celtic here, I think. But he has the tools. I mean, there was a lovely, that pass he put through, I think, with the Johnny Hayes assist from McGregor for the winner. The pass that he put through, just that wee jink, taking it on his right foot and then just sliding it through left foot. He has that. He's got a lovely way to pass. But I think he's just in a very, very different system. But similar to Bitton, he needs 8 games in a row to get himself up to that match sharpness. but he always looks like he's just taken a fraction of a second too long. Always looks like it, but he's always looked like that throughout his career. He just has that wee bit of a lazy gait about him. But he's a good player. But then, look at Duffy. He left us the fucking amount of man and match awards he's picking up in a system that suits him.
Did you call McCarthy a lazy git? Yeah.
No, he had a lazy gait. Yeah.
Lazy.
That's what I said.
Nice. Yeah, that's what it means in Irish. Lazy git. No, but interestingly, because I kind of saw it a wee bit different, because he was right in front of me where I am in the Prawn Sandwich Brigade. He was kind of right in front of me a lot, and I mentioned to you, Hector, he seemed to have that a wee bit of vision in front of him. Like, there was a beautiful ball he played for, I think, for Juranovic, and he just hadn't ran. The defender kind of stepped back rather than going forward. So it looks though McCarthy's played like a diddy ball out the park, but it was like a perfect 30-yard pass, 5 yards inside the line, not wide. He had the vision to see that's where the ball's meant to go, but the other guy just went. So they're just not on the same wavelength at the moment. Yeah. No, that wee kind of, and as my as my friend Billy, who supports the Huns, would say, it's like Mikhailichenko. He used to watch Mikhailichenko and hear all his fans rant, all his pals rant and rave about how shit this guy was, and he would say Mikhailichenko's seen things on that part that the other guys only see. So he was playing the ball into the right place, but the other guys weren't running into get the ball. So it looks so it's a wrong pass at the right. I mean, that kind of thing. So I think McCarthy does. He had a wee bit of that yesterday, as in a couple of apparently failed passes, but he was actually breaking the lines. No, but these sort of things we need against these packed teams. So it'd be good if we can then get another 90 minutes against Hearts, which will be a really tough game on Thursday, let's be honest. But it'll be great if he can then kick on. So then you would have McGregor, McCarthy, and Beaton. We got for those kind of three people available for two spaces. A wee bit of rotation here and there. Maybe actually give Callum McGregor
need that.
the rest.
With these fixtures coming up, we definitely
exactly.
do that.
McGregor on empty.
Can I just add something? Just want to bring it up. Is about special praise. I think the two centre halves.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carter Vickers and Welsh. Carter Vickers, we've all given him praise. I think the boy really looks a really good talent, and if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he's a player I'd love to see sign. But special, cheer for Stephen Welsh. That boy's been immense. I mean, coming in out the blue, obviously he kind of get dumped when Carter Vickers came in, and Starfield built the partnership, and they two were doing quite well. But he just was ready to come back in again. He's come back in high-profile games and hasn't put a foot wrong. I think the boy's been outstanding, and it's great to see a boy that I've had cards on the table. When I first seen him, I thought, I don't really see much here. I tell you what, right now, that boy has nailed on his place in that squad, and definitely one of the four centre backs at the club. And I'm delighted for him. I think he's been outstanding the last few games.
Definitely. I think, like I know I've been on quite a lot about Carter Vickers, but it's the fact he's so solid. I mean, like, when the ball's up in the air, you expect him to win it. You don't hope he wins it. No, those sort of things. And then Welsh is a wee bit of kind of, he does everything so well we don't notice it half the time. But then when you do, somebody put up the stats about how he had a 96% pass rate or something, but he had, like, say, maybe, for one, I could be totally wrong here, but let's say 50 passes or 80 passes, whatever it was, but 98% of them were correct. And they might only be back to Carter Vickers or to Joe Hart, but he only lost the ball something like 2 times, and then had won every aerial duel. Like, everything that was asked from him, he done everything that was asked from him. And as you say, a young guy who's getting flung in, he's not getting brought on with 10 minutes to go. He's not getting bedded in towards the end of the season. This is like a crunch time for the club. I mean, like, you lose, you draw yesterday, you lose another game, and suddenly everybody would be up calling for Anstey to go. No, that sort of thing. It's high pressure games. Leverkusen, that sort of thing. He's a guy that's marking his guy and doing his job. Still getting abuse for it, but it turns out he's actually done everything correct. So you're right. Even with, like, again, Ralston, I know I mentioned him earlier on, to blame, but stepping up all the time. He's also, like, Juranovic didn't seem to do much during the game. I don't think, like, for actual, he came on a wee bit in the second half in front of me, but Ralston seemed to be the guy who said, give me the ball, I'll drive on a wee bit more. He seems to be the driving full back at the moment. I don't know.
You've got to watch Juranovic's movement, Desi, because I'm the opposite for you. So see the first half, left with Jota. See Juranovic's movement off the ball. it's weird. He's almost like a midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
You forget he's actually a fullback a lot of the time. And his movement's frightening. The space he creates for the players around about him, his movement's just fantastic. And his distribution, his touch and pass, he pings it at pace, and invariably it's spot on. So I think he's an excellent player, and I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to see him and Forrest playing on the right hand side together. I really can't. I think that would add an extra 5-10% to how the team can develop with those two on the same side.
Right. Well, we've hit the positives here, right? I'll say negative with a question mark, Monty. Is Kyogo currently being wasted at the moment? Are we getting as much out of him as we can get, or is there something just missing from now?
I think we're not doing anything different with him. I think just the run of games that we've had have been teams that are just packed and sitting tight. And I think recently the space that he would have had or the ability to get in behind hasn't just presented itself. Leverkusen was a very difficult game. Aberdeen parked the bus, I think there's probably an element too, a bit like Avada, started like a house on fire, then goes off the boil, as all good strikers do. And funny, I think Juranovic is an excellent player, but against Leverkusen, I thought he was very sloppy. And again, same thing, peaks and troughs. And then that's probably being too harsh on him, because if you look at Leverkusen and how Leverkusen played the game and their speed of thought and just that lightning fast reaction, I don't think maybe sloppy is the wrong word. He got caught out of it. So I think the next run of games. Funny, I fancy Kyogo to score on Thursday. So I do. I think Hearts will play a type of football that'll suit them. They'll come out, they're flying, so they're going to come at us. They'll have a view that they've nothing to fear, which suits us down to the ground. So, no, I don't think we're doing anything different. I think it's just the opposition he's come up against isn't particularly suited to him, Desi. That would be my... Here's the mark
of a good player, in my opinion, right? I wouldn't disagree with both your points. It's like a roller coaster, isn't it? He's flying here, he's getting in, he's getting space, he's exciting. And when you set such high standards, the expectation levels understandably rises a bit up to that level.
Yeah.
And you think he's not quite got there. But see the Leverkusen game, our 2 goals came from Kyogo.
Aye.
Which is the sign of a good player. The penalty kick, his bravery to go in there knowing that he's probably going to get leather with the keeper.
Going to get wiped out.
Right. Got the penalty. And the second goal we got, his quick awareness to touch, turn with his left foot and slide in Jota was fantastic.
Just that game awareness, absolutely.
Aye.
The game awareness.
So the sign of him being, you're right, he's no setting that world on fire in terms of being electric, in terms of goals and everything else. But he still set up 2 goals. Even yesterday, I think Welsh took one off his head for an easy finish just before half time.
Yeah, but more of my point was, like, I wasn't saying he's been wasteful. It was as he been wasted. Like the fact that he was, because we're so deep, do we need to kind of look at maybe tweaking, like getting to the byline more and pulling the ball back for him, kind of thing? Because he's not got that space to run in. Like his early goals were all kind of balls played through. Plus you've got Tom Roderick still to come back, who's the master at playing that weighted 5-yarder for him to run on and dink it over the keeper. Wee aspects like that. But it's like when you kind of see him coming back towards the halfway line just to get a touch, and I mean, like you can see he's dying to get involved a wee bit more. It's that kind of Harry Kane feeling. No, right, we don't want you there. We want you in front of the keeper. That kind of idea.
It's just not happening for him. I think Monty's hit the nail on the head, and it's just not happening for him. Christ, he scored away to the Ferenc Varos, didn't he?
It's still involved in the game, but it's a star man. Let's be honest.
But here's where he's also vital, and it was once again yesterday. See his closing down of the keeper and their defenders. It sets the scene for everything else behind him. He's going right up to the keeper on his 6-yard line on the penalty spot, forcing the keeper to quickly launch the ball, which means that they can't set apart him and have like their 3 centre backs, their 2 wing backs, and 2 deep line midfielders to kind of play a diamond triangle and kill 30-60 seconds. He's on the keeper's touch, forcing him to launch it, clear it, and setting us up. So I think he's been exceptional. He's the closest I've seen in terms of that work rate as a striker, as a forward to Henry, in terms of what he does, in terms of being dynamic and closing down space and being the first defender. I just think the team's still finding itself a wee bit. And he's still finding his place in that team a wee bit. And his runs are not getting picked out I think as they should be with one or two players, but I think your point about Rogic is a very good point. Rogic can thread the eye of a needle.
Aye.
And I think other than Turnbull, McGregor can be a little bit deeper sometimes. There's no many that can put that quality of pass in for him. Maybe that's just what's missing a wee bit.
And that's interesting because the system, back to that stat guy who I read talking about, it's midfield that we need to be changing to fit the system. That, if you can imagine a more dynamic midfield, which has that speed of thought and athleticism and agility to make that press to join up with what Kyogo's doing at the front, now all of a sudden, and domestically especially, we press teams domestically as a unit with that type of speed of thought. Fucking hell, you can knock it out. So and everything's evolution as well. There's other ways you can beat a press, just go long, and a lot of ones we play in the SPFL will probably do that. But finding the balance is going to be a challenge for finding the balance. If we sign those couple of players that have been mentioned from Japan early and get them in, they seem to fit that entire sort of bill. Lightning fast, technically aware, and don't mind doing the press side of things, based on all the clips we've seen of them anyway, the Hatari and Maiden.
We'd spoken about this in previous podcasts, and we'd asked about new signings, and I'd said I would love us to prioritise 2 midfielders at the start of January, to pair 2 dynamic guys in the 8 and 10 role, McGregor sitting off them. What that transformation to the team, be having that electric pace and precision of pass and movement, it's frightening what it could do to this team. So
there was
I
great
hope that happens.
talking about Kyogo's pressing. There was a great bit right in front of me yesterday, where basically Charles doing the Aberdeen right back. That would be to stop him sending the ball 50 yards down the line, and literally we all kind of stood up and gave him a round of applause. And Kyogo slammed his hand against the turf because he was annoyed the ball went out of play. He was trying to divert it into play so he could immediately counter-attack. Not that way. So it wasn't enough to actually close down the play by running 30 yards at top speed after 80 minutes. He was still annoyed at himself that he didn't actually produce a counter-attack out at just a different level of standards. So, okay, so that brings us on to Thursday. So the games are coming thick and fast. I think we play the 3rd in the league on Thursday, and then we play the 4th in the league on Sunday, Hector. So Hearts on Thursday. When we get a penalty, how is Juranovic going to address Craig Gordon? Where's he going to put it?
I think he's done one in the left corner, one in the right corner, under the bar. The logical solution is he's going to nutmeg him. He's the penalty.
In the middle.
Aye.
I think what the Ardiles, remember Roger Ardiles in Escape to Victory? He run past it and lift it over his own head and then put it in the net.
I'm looking forward. I think I'm looking forward to a good performance. I don't expect. Then again, I don't expect them to play the same way as St Johnstone Aberdeen. But Nielsen's a kind of defensive-minded coach, and they came to play at the start of the season just after the beats in the league. And although it finished 3-2, I thought the first 45 minutes we played that game was incredible. So I think I'm going to change my mind on that one. He will. I think he will change his tactics to be almost exactly the same as Livingston. He's seen the template. He's seen it. He's got a bit of pace on the counter as well with Mackay Stevens, a couple of other wingers there as well. And the Irish boy's up front, isn't he? He's a decent goal scorer, that boy. But I was thinking at first, why are we playing on Thursday night? And somebody says, Sky, they've got 3 games Thursday. I was a bit annoyed with it. But see, now I think about it, it's probably not a bad thing. It's giving an extra day's rest from Thursday in Leverkusen to Sunday, the extra day. I just go for them. Just go for them. Get the goal in the first 20 minutes and just keep going for them. And if we can do that, I could see us winning with a wee bit to spare. But, no holding back. Just keep going for them.
Right, Monty, I know you never saw the game yesterday, but within the first 3 minutes, Ramirez had clattered Joe Hart, who needed about 5 minutes of treatment. And then we get various other tackles on Celtic players. And then McGregor, I think, was the first person to get booked for something nonsensical. How long will it be before a Celtic player gets booked after 7 Hearts challenges on Thursday, do you think?
I'm going to go for our first booking within the first 5 minutes. And it'll be someone, probably Carter Vickers, someone who's got a couple of yellows in the bag already and start building towards getting him suspended for a couple of games. Or, pick your area of the team that you think would be most weakened by a quick suspension coming up to January. It's interesting. just when you're talking about Hart and the influence that he's having, he's vice captain and he's an outstanding keeper. Best since Forster, arguably on a level. If he got injured, it's not Barkas. Barkas is obviously going to leave in January or find a new club. It's not Hazard, because Hazard I don't think will make it at Celtic. We're down to Bain and the young fella. The young, I think he's an England under-19 keeper that has been in the squad the last while. Is Davy Marshall getting a game down at Derby?
Oh, I'm not sure. You sound like Hugh Keevins when you start asking us to sign David Marshall instead of Joe Hart.
No, I'm just thinking, we don't have, like, Bain doesn't command in the way that Hart does. We don't have a good backup goalkeeper. We just don't. We've got 3 squad keepers. Barkas, for whatever reason, we'll probably find out in years to come why that didn't work. He was an international goalkeeper and apparently very, very good at AEK. He came here in time. So I think we probably should be looking at a wee bit of backup for Hart. But sorry, I've gone down a rabbit hole.
Oh, no, that's a very good point, because for want of a better phrase, I think Hearts were in mouse yesterday, Hector, when we saw Hart down. And as I say, it is right in front of me where I sit. I mean, I could see in the dugout they were starting to get like the replacement jersey out and stuff for Bain, and they're like, oh, for God's sake, please don't. Because it does upset the whole rhythm of the team. I mean, like, if you took a Carter Vickers, you take a Hart, you take a McGregor, that spine of the team, take Kyogo, it disrupts everything. I mean, the ripple effect.
Here's a thing, though. We talk about players learning from other quality players. The example was when Scott Sinclair's first season, and he was the left wing, he was player of the year, was the improvement in Forrest on the right wing. Because remember, Forrest just used to hug the touchline all the time. And it wasn't till Sinclair had demonstrated that the ball goes to him the left, fine, but on the other flank, Sinclair's first thing was to get in that penalty box. And ended up scoring, 15, 20 goals, right? And I think Forrest developed so much by watching his play. I'm wondering whether the likes of Bain, and it's not about the technicalities of it, right? But one of our biggest bugbears was these guys were too quiet. They weren't organising. I wonder if training with a guy like Joe Hart every day for 4 months, it must rub off on you in terms of leadership and demanding where players go here and go there and get tight. Things that some keepers are very too quiet, because Barkas and Bain would barely shout at a mouse. And I'm wondering if there's got to be some degree of watching and learning and evolving as a player or as a keeper. You'll never be the same level in terms of saving, top right, bottom left. But things in the modern game about organisation, about communication, leadership, I wonder whether some of that's rubbed off. You'd like to think it would have done.
Yeah. Who was it that was the deputy to Big Foster again, the Polish guy? Remember him? I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head, but I haven't to look it up. He sat on the bench for 4 years. Mind, they came for
Zaluska.
Remember, square arse. I used to say that was Polish for square arse. He sat there for 4 years and hardly played a game, if you're lucky. You know what I mean? But it's strange to talk about as in communication and shouting at folk, because Bain is famous for shouting at one person, and that was telling Neil McCann to go fuck himself when he played for Dundee, and that's how he ended up at Celtic. Because it was Dundee's number 1 keeper, and they were getting beat with some mob, and at half time Neil McCann started reading the Riot Act. This was on open goal, and Neil McCann started reading the Riot Act, and he's like, and that's for you, keeper, and Scott Bain just went, you go fuck yourself or fuck off. And he's like, what did you say? I told you to go fuck yourself. As in fact, he said it all that. So usually you would back down, you would kind of just say sorry, gaff or something. No, he wasn't backing down. Pure stood up and Neil McCann literally wanted a square goal. And I think that was a Wednesday, and it was at Celtic by the Saturday. Because mind, they came in and played against the Huns. Remember, played that great game against Rangers. Total.
I didn't know. I knew he fell. I didn't quite know.
I know. I think they questioned Neil McCann.
He's not my to
So Hearts. I'm thinking if you're a betting man, I know we've talked about betting. If you're a betting man, I've got a sneaky suspicion you've got a good chance Kyogo will get a yellow card, because they were getting a wee bit annoyed just the amount of times he got hit yesterday, and when it does get hit, it does go to the deck, but he is getting hit. So I've got a feeling suddenly the refs will start saying, "Big mate," even though he get elbowed in the face yesterday, Kevin Clancy's still wave play on, standing right next to him. I've got a feeling the refs will maybe start bringing that a wee yellow or two. So I've got a feeling he could maybe get a yellow. But I think it could be a 3-2, Hector. I can't say is keeping a clean sheet, given the way we are. I'd like to see it, but I'll go for 3-2.
I'm going to go 3-1. 3-1.
Monty?
I think it'll be tight enough, I think, but I don't think we'll concede. I think we'll win 2-0.
Okay, that's point. Okay, so then we're up with Tannadice. This will quickly wrap up as we head. So we're heading up with Tannadice. So we're playing literally the third and the fourth. That shows you how tight the schedule is. We're playing the third and the fourth in the league. So it'd be nice to put a wee bit of distance between us and Hearts. I mean, Rangers are at Hibs on Wednesday, I think, so that would be interesting to see if Hibs, but I think Hibs have had a couple of guys sent off in their last game, so they'll be missing a few. So I don't know if we'll catch any points up name, but Tannadice on Sunday, classic encounter, another one. I'm not really sure. They're fourth in the league, so they're doing well enough. So
they should have beat us at Celtic Park. Right.
Mate, the wee triangles they played that day were lovely.
They had a chance at the last minute, 2v1, and they fluffed it right in front of your goal to beat us 2-1. And thankfully they messed it up. But we were pretty rubbish.
We were.
I think we're a far superior team. So I'd like to see us, go there. I think they'll be more attacking than United. I think that they're a more attacking team, so that should hopefully suit us a bit come Sunday. So
again, a wee 6 points all we ask for. We're not asking for the most.
One game at a time, Desi. Just keep the head down, get the business done. Lena Martell,
Celtic Supporters Club, one game at a time.
Sweet Jesus.
Exactly. So breaking news, Gavin Stratton has rejected a move to be manager of Hartlepool. So Monty, I'm afraid that's your second dream ruined. First Ralph Ragnarok and now Gavin Stratton. And fair play again, a second point of praise to Celtic. Their Christmas video, Gavin Stratton's laptop getting a star and roll. Whoever thought up that idea, that was very good. That was fair play.
That was good, wasn't it?
Entertainment 101. That was very good. So that's us. So sadly, Ralph never managed to make it, folks. But I also have good news from Monty, who's pinged me to say the site is back up. It's a few slight tweaks to the old format, but it's back up in the newer format. Hopefully it'll stay up. You'll be able to catch Ralph's diary if and when the Polish let him away for whatever he's involved in tonight. His diary should be online hopefully most days, so try and catch that at etims.net. If you've liked the podcast, please subscribe and like where possible. Tell your friends. If you don't like it, let us know why. We're available at etims.contact@gmail.com. And it's just left for me to say thanks to the guys tonight. Thank you, Hector.
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed that.
Thank you very much, Monty.
Thanks, Desi. Thanks, Hector. It was good.
Okay, folks. Thanks very much for listening. My name's Desmond. Good night.